Welcome to the Green Rush podcast with Ann Donahoe and Louis Goldberg. Today, Louis and Ann speak with Lynn Honderd, CEO and founder of Mary's Medicinals and Mary's Nutritionals. Lynn is one of the most interesting CEOs in the industry, straddling the line between advocacy, professionalism, and Wall Street. She has built a truly inspiring company and one that's on the cutting edge of branding and marketing. To top it off, she's just plain cool. Now, on to the conversation.
So thanks for joining us on the Green Rush, Lynn. We're so happy to have you here. You are a true pioneer in the industry and one of the very few women of leadership roles in the cannabis space. But your background is in financial services, where you've served in a variety of senior positions within banks like Bank of America and UBS. Can you talk a little bit about your cannabis journey and how you made the leap from financial services into cannabis?
Sure. First and foremost, thanks for having me. It's great to finally connect with you all. So it's my pleasure. Interestingly enough, it wasn't a space that I thought I would get into. With the background of what I had after I kind of exited the corporate world, I did a lot of startups on my own and worked with some small companies. We were sitting in 2012 looking at the landscape of Colorado, looking at the industry going rec in 2013, and wondering how we could kind of potentially capitalize on it, for lack of better words, and to do something different from what we were doing at the time. We had worked with a company that had made patches in the past, not cannabis related, but vitamin related. And we thought, well, this is interesting. And we thought, let's R&D this and let's look at what we can put into the marketplace, really from the perspective of being the adult in the room. When you looked at the marketplace, especially back then, which to all of us seems like 40 years ago, but it was, only 5. You looked at what was out there, and I noticed that there wasn't an adult. There wasn't anybody that really brought the true meaning of the plant to the patients. And we took an approach that was very new and revolutionary at the time, which was adhering to 4 key pillars of accurately dosed, discrete use, pharmaceutical-grade delivery mechanisms, and a patient-first mentality. And by holding true to those 4 key pillars, we were really able to kind of change the landscape of the use of cannabis and the conversations that surround it. So it was very different. Didn't think we'd be in it. It would be remiss of me to say I wasn't interested in the capitalist side of it, because obviously there was, everybody speaks of this green rush, for lack of better words. But at the same time, it was also about bringing an adult into the marketplace that really cared about the patients and the experience that the patients were having.
It seems like a very pharmaceutical biotech approach. Would you align yourself kind of with that thinking?
A little bit, I think so. Back in the early stages of the organization, yes. Again, it was, what's a discrete way to use cannabis that isn't, pulling out a bong or using a joint or eating a gummy. We've morphed out of that a little bit, but still truly adhere to kind of those 4 key pillars that we started with as an organization.
So you talk about the professionalization, the adult in the room, and there is this seemingly underlying tension between the historic advocates and the black market participants who are moving from into the gray, now the green market, and people like you, the quote unquote suits. But I think one of the things in my learning about your company is that there is a real underlying sense of corporate and social responsibilities to Mary's. Can you talk about that, please? Because I don't think people understand how deeply embedded CSR is to your corporate ethic.
Sure, and it really is. There's a fine balance, especially in this industry, and of really listening to the people that brought this movement to the forefront, but then also looking at it as an adult and saying, okay, we have this industry. It's been illegal and technically still is, but now we're trying to regulate it and bring good medicine to the people who need it. And so from our perspective, our corporate responsibility really starts with an education component. When we launched Mary's, and still to this day, we're not sales members or sales teams, we're educators. And the responsibility from our part is to put high quality tested product into the marketplace. We started that by being one of the very first companies within Colorado to actually have an in-house testing machine and testing machines within all of the facilities that we now operate in 12 different states. So it's high quality, good product into the marketplace, an accurately dosed product into the marketplace. And then the third is educating the patient on the benefits. There was, especially back then when we started there, and as we expand into new states that aren't, coast side states that really don't know a lot about cannabis still, the education component is huge because we still are battling a lot of naysayers and people who don't view the plant for the benefits that they should be. So how we project that throughout Mary's on both sides of the spectrum is by education. We support Americans for Safe Access. We do YouTube chimes that help promote cannabis in general, not just Mary's products. We give money and donate to organizations like the Realm of Caring, who help advocate for patients, and really take responsibility that it's education first. And with that education, we'll change the conversation.
So your website has some amazing stories from patients, and all of them are very powerful and emotional. Are you finding that to be helpful in telling your story? I mean, as marketers and as communicators, we are always charged with, telling great stories and making sure that there's a face and a name, associated with that. Do you find that that's resonating with certain segments of the population, like older people who might be, suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, or, I guess how are those stories impacting both your marketing and your product R&D?
Quite a bit, actually. Marketing is a little tricky. As we all know, we can't say what the product's good for on a mass market scale. And so that makes it really difficult. So by having stories of people and truly letting them tell the story on the benefit of the plant helps us, because we're not going out saying what the benefit's for, because we can't. So by having patients do that, it definitely helps promote the product and cannabis in general. When it comes to product development, unequivocally, without any question, it makes all of the difference what our patients say and the feedback that they have for us. We deal with a wide variety of patients, and I can give you a quick story. The reason we did our transdermal our transdermal gel pen as our second product was, as we started looking at patients who were using our patch, we noticed two things. One, there was a lot of children who were using it, and the feedback we got from their caregivers was that they didn't like to wear a patch, and two, it wasn't dosed small enough yet for them. So we listened to that feedback, and then we pivot on the type of product that we're going to put out to the marketplace, and we do that still today.
So you guys have a really beautiful brand, and I think you have a clear brand story.
Thank you.
I first encountered you guys in Telluride, like 3 or 4 years ago. I tried the transdermal patch. I thought it was really interesting, but I loved the story, the look, the feel, everything behind it. There is this oddly regulated nature to the industry where you can't really move plant or money across state lines, but you're now in 11 states. Can you talk about the challenges that you faced in actually trying to build out a national brand?
Sure. It's not been easy, to say the least. Challenging in that you have to have experts within each individual state. So we recognized that getting a consistent brand out into the marketplace was something we wanted to do from day one. And the importance of that is that people could have the same experience, whether they were purchasing a product in Oregon or purchasing a product in Vermont. Reputable, consistent product was a necessity. Mary's is very fortunate in that the ability to make our products sweet is scalable. A lot of organizations, I think, out there don't have the ability to look at the market size of each individual state and recognize that they could still make the same quality product just on a smaller scale, or in some cases a larger scale. So for us in particular, it was very convenient and awesome, for lack of better words, to have a scalable product suite. When you start diving into the nuances of each individual state, it's definitely cumbersome. Where some states we could go in as our own, as Mary's, all on our own with our own licensure. Other states we had to partner and find the right partner. And with so many different actors entering the space, that vetting process can take a lot of time. Obviously, mistakes have been made, and you do your best to rectify those and move forward. So it's not an easy feat. But I look at market size first within the state that we're going into, and then look at the operators that are there and make sure that we're partnering with the right group to bring the consistent product that we want to the marketplace.
So you talk about some mistakes that you've made, and as an entrepreneur, I have to imagine that's just part of the gig.
Yes.
So is there one that you look back on and you're just like, holy crap, I can't believe I survived that? Or what was a key learning that you may have taken from that mistake and applied it to the future success, future success?
Sure. I think one in particular was the second state we launched into after Colorado. We thought the structure for how we set up that state was ideal, in that it was a loose licensing agreement. We would provide the IP, we would provide the technology, we would provide the know-how, but rely on the partnership that we the partnership that we had to produce, manufacture, and then this was the kicker, to sell. And so what inevitably happened is that as that partner grew into more product suites outside of Mary's, they had their own product suite as well. The ability to sell both products was diminishing. And that's human nature. And I get that. The capitalist in me says that's human nature. If you have the opportunity to make 100% off of a product you sell, or 20% or 30%, you inevitably gravitate towards selling that 100% profit margin product, right? And so what we recognized from that was twofold. One, the revenue wasn't what we thought it was going to be based off of that. But two, and more importantly, and that goes back to the founding reason of who we are and what we do, was the sales approach was not what we were controlling. And that was unfortunate, because we had and still do have such a unique sales approach, in that we're educators and not salespeople. And so to me, it was extraordinarily important that the sales staff educates first and moves product based off of education instead of based off of sales. And the only way we could control that is by controlling our sales and the manufacturing and the product development. So after we learned that lesson, and a lot of back and forth on adjusting that agreement, for lack of better words, as we looked into new states, and as we go into new states now, we've flipped that model, and we come in and handle the production, manufacturing, and sales aspect of it.
So IP in cannabis is tough. You can't trademark.
Well, you can. You just have to do it. You have to be sly, for lack of better words. You can trade, like we've trademarked Mary's, but we sell it on T-shirts, we sell it on coffee cups, we sell it on hats, we sell it on product, not actually on cannabis.
Well, so talk about the patenting aside,
Sure.
because I know you guys have patents, and there's not many that do in cannabis. So can you talk about that?
I can talk about it a little bit. I'll be the first to tell you. I surround myself with experts, and I know what I don't know. So let me. I'll speak on it on a very high level, and maybe it's a later conversation for our patent attorney. Yes, we do have. We were issued one patent for a transdermal gel pen. It was revolutionary at the time. We were so excited to get it. We honestly didn't think we would, and it was awarded to us for formulation, which was huge. And I think we were probably one of the first kind of in the market selling a cannabis product to have a patent on a product. It was arduous, and it was long, and it took a lot of R&D and a lot of time, talent, and treasure to secure that. But it was one of the key things that I look at as one of our biggest successes, was being able to secure that. The other one that we have, and it's pending, is our patch patent. And so that's pending in a formulation and actual manufacturing makeup as well. So we're still in the process of that. It takes a lot of capital to do patents, just like it takes a lot of capital to do studies and R&D, but it's worth it, especially in this space, and continuing to seek new patents on whether it's formulations or actual product is something that is on the top of our list.
So IP, R&D, patents, all this stuff, that costs a lot of money.
It does.
We met at the Cowen Investment Conference back in Los Angeles. We did. I saw you on a panel and was really blown away. But you were at an investment bank conference. Can you talk about what your capital markets plans? You're going to go public anytime soon?
Well, I don't know if we're going to go public anytime soon. It's a natural fit for our organization and others. Obviously, as you saw, there were a ton of organizations out there. looking at the space and wanting to invest in it. And so it's kind of a natural progression. I think it feels natural for me as well because my background is in that. As far as capital needs go, we're always interested, and we're always, potentially looking for partnerships. For us in particular, it's finding the right partnership, right? And it's finding somebody that strategically aligns with our thinking and where our growth strategy is going forward for the next 3 to 5 years. I don't rule out lots of different things, but I think the federal regulation is going to, federal landscape is going to play into what avenue we decide to go, whether that's an IPO in the States, IPO in Canada, a buyout by alcohol, tobacco, big pharma, or another cannabis company. The options are out there on the table. And what's very exciting, I think, from my perspective, is that in the infancy of cannabis, and it really wasn't the infancy, but mainstream infancy that Colorado kind of led the charge on, and seeing it grow over the course of the 5 years, and who's actually coming out to listen to cannabis companies and to see the change in cannabis companies and real dollars coming into the space is exciting, because it definitely continues to help put the mature adult in the room and help make it a legal growing business. Now, the nuances behind how that all works out, I'll leave to the experts.
Well, actually, so what are your old Bank of America, UBS, Paine Webber colleagues say about your career transition? Are they, writing checks, or are they kind of saying,
pass that joint over here? Other than
right, there you go. They're like, hey, what do you have that'll help? No, and I'm not speaking from any one in particular person. I'll speak from a general standpoint of the marketplace. It's a combination of both. 2 years ago, when I spoke at the first Cowen conference in Washington, it was just a lot of family office, and it was a lot of people, from big names like Fidelity and Mass Mutual and American Century coming and just listening and really trying to get a better understanding of the market. Fast forward a year, in New York, it's a much larger event. Vivian Azer of Cowen puts on these phenomenal events, and it has really taken charge in bringing capital to these markets. And then, I think this year in particular, there are more companies from the financial side putting dollars where their mouth was. The interest is there. The interest has been substantiated. The growth has been substantiated. So I think you're seeing more dollars come in. Interestingly enough, I think one of the things that have opened those doors a little bit, obviously, was Constellation Brands. They do alcohol beverages. They bought a big stake in Canopy, and that showed, there's a financial, a tried and true publicly traded company in the US making a major financial investment into a cannabis space. And so I think that's going to things like that will continue to help open the doors for capital to be brought into the cannabis space at a more easily basis. All that said, until regulation happens from a federal level in some form or fashion, I still think it'll be a lot more difficult than not.
My father-in-law is in his 80s, and he has back pain. And I was in California not so long ago, and I picked up one of your gel pens. It was the CBD THC mix, and I gave it to him. This guy has never smoked a joint. He's never eaten an edible. He never thought about it, but he was in pain, and I gave him the pen, and his wife applied it. And literally after one application, he was pain-free, which speaks both to your formulation, but also to the plant. But the amazing thing was he immediately went out to all of his cronies and starts raving about the use of cannabis. Right. How are your customers discovering you? How are they finding your products? Because you can't advertise. It's where's that? Can you talk about that discovery process?
It truly is what you just said. It's word of mouth. We can advertise a little bit. We just can't advertise the benefits of it, right? So we get creative. It's word of mouth. It's education. We have a brand ambassador down in Florida who goes and talks to retirement homes. We have brand ambassadors who go out and talk to different avenues otherwise not known to cannabis, and really kind of change the conversation of the use of cannabis from people who view it as a reactive or last ditch approach to a proactive use of medicine. And it's from all walks of life. It's like you said, it's a 80-year-old dad who has rheumatoid arthritis or back pain to a 2-year-old child who has epilepsy. And we have a big social media presence, and we really try to foster group forum chats, and we try to foster blogs, and we try to foster different people talking to each other. But that's really, it's word of mouth, and it's a solid product, and people can trust it and use it and get results from it.
And I just want mine back, by the way, from my father-in-law, because he still hasn't given it back yet.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to make sure he gets another one.
But from a product standpoint, what are some of your best sellers, and are you able to tell who is buying?
Sure. Our patch is still our number one seller, which is really exciting. We do offer it in a couple of different cannabinoid forms, so it's not just THC or CBD. And then outside of that, our two other products that are the best that everybody's kind of chatting about are our Remedy Oil, which is our tincture, and our Muscle Freeze. Everybody loves the Muscle Freeze, and the Muscle Freeze is for everybody. And when I say everybody, I truly mean it. I mean, we have, 21-year-old kids. I call them kids, so I guess that's telling you my age. 21-year-old kids that are using it.
I call them kids too. So.
All right, good. All right, that are using it after they work out. To help alleviate sore muscles, to the doctor of the Golf Channel. We were at the PGA golf show a couple months back in Florida, and he did an entire segment on the Golf Channel about our product suite and really saying this works, this is why it works, and this is how great it is. So it's everything from, like I said, 21-year-old kids to retired golfers in Florida, to we have a line of our nutritional products in a major hotel spas chain across the country. So the demographic is large and vast, which is exciting, but also makes it kind of difficult when we start talking about market studies and what product to put out. But they are everybody, whether you're 2 to 92, everybody's merry.
I love that.
Thank you.
So we, at the end of every show, we ask our guests to tell us 2 things they love about the cannabis industry and 1 thing they hate, and we call it puff, puff, pass, because we're cheeky like that. So Lynn, puff, puff, pass.
Can I ask a question? Can I caveat it really quick before I tell you? Do I get to explain why after I tell you, or no?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, this is your time. Yeah.
All right. Ready? So my 2 puffs. Oh, gosh. Altruism and capitalism. And my pass would be taxes, 280 taxes. So what I mean by that is I've worked in a ton of different industries, or I've worked with a ton of different industries in my financial career, bringing different companies public. And I say this often, and I truly mean it. This is one industry that I work in that I really feel strongly that altruism and capitalism coexist. And it's very important that they coexist in this industry, because you cannot forget the people who paved the way to get us to where we are, and really rely on what they've done for the movement of the plant and the benefits of the plant. And it's so important to remember that. But you also can't negate the suits, for lack of better words, that come in and take it to the next level of being a truly regulated, well thought out, run business-minded acumen industry. So that's why I think capitalism and altruism are exciting, and are my 2 puffs. And then 280E. I mean, that's for a whole nother segment. That just stinks, because what 280E does is it just it dampens the ability to continue to grow this sector, whether that's bringing new people into the job force, and more importantly, getting medicine out to the people who need it.
In the 30 or so guests that we've had, everybody hates taxes, and it's been no one's pass.
Really?
Yes, am I wrong?
No, nobody has mentioned 280E once in really, and maybe it's because we haven't asked about it, but
okay,
you're spot on.
Yeah, it doesn't help us grow. I mean, I love the fact that we're this business that grew from 3 employees to over 60. And I think without the 280E consequence, we could be at 120 employees. And so it's just, that hopefully that'll get ironed out here in the future.
Great.
So,
well, Oh, sorry, Lewis, go ahead.
No, all you.
So what have we missed? I mean, we're about out of time, and we know we want to be mindful of your time, but is there anything that we've missed that you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity. We love what we do at Mary's. We're passionate about it, and we're passionate about the people. And I think that's what makes us all kind of tick here is we care about the people who use our products.
And that wraps up another episode of the Green Rush podcast with Ann Donahoe and Lewis Goldberg, who spoke today with Lynn Honderd, CEO and founder of Mary's Medicinals and Mary's Nutritionals, which you can learn more about over at marysmedicinals.com and marysnutritionals.com. You can find and subscribe to The Green Rush on iTunes, Stitcher, and anywhere else you find good podcasts. Follow The Green Rush on Instagram and Twitter at KCSA_cannabis. And of course, you can visit our website over at greenrushpodcast.net. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week on The Green Rush.